distinguished, but you can certainly feel them. 6:04 now the gap, so it's definitely coming down.
Well, it was right around 7 minutes before we took that last break, so over just the last few kilometers they've lost a minute. We still have Lamprey at the front two riders, then Johnny Hogerland, Bregovic, our leader in red, and Astana, their entire team there. Well, we saw some rough teamwork yesterday in that time trial in the last few kilometers. Some guys just were not ready to go. And for Katusha, it was surprising. A guy like Daniel Moreno, who struggled so much. What a surprise.
Yeah, sometimes it just, if you're off the littlest bit in a team time trial, you are going to be in for a ride that you want to forget as quick as possible, because you are going to be put to the task so quickly and held there for the entire duration until you get dropped.
If you're curious, the last man to win the Giro and the Vuelta in the same year was Alberto Contador back in 2008. A notable absentee from this year's Vuelta.
Yeah, he just said he didn't have the stuff to do another three-week race after the Tour de France. And I totally relate to that. And this is Bauke Mollema, the Sky man out of the saddle, leader for that squad. And he's just chilling, riding at the back with a bunch of his teammates. No stress. He'll be feeling a little bit of stress later on, because everybody who wants to be in the general classification is going to have to get up to the front, fight for position into that final climb of 11 kilometers, and then have the legs to make it happen as well. You were just talking about some of the teams that struggled a little bit yesterday in the team time trial, and Sky actually put together a very nice ride, but they lost Edvald Boassenhagen really early, which was a real surprise to me, because he is such a good bike racer. And when I talked with his director this morning, Nicolas Portal, that was one of the questions I asked him. And I just said, look, was that actually stemming from his broken scapula in the Tour de France in July, and still, you know, coming back from that? And he said, yeah, he lost a lot of training from that. He has not done a single race day until yesterday from the Tour de France. And so he just didn't have the intensity. And there's one thing to have all the endurance from your training and be ready for a 3-week tour through that. But to be able to go the speed they have to go in a team time trial for your first day back, that's a big ask.
That was stage 12 where he broke his scapula. Now you see the bare hands of Rasmussen. Okay, I got to ask you, most of the guys are wearing their gloves when they're riding. He's not. Why?
Okay, well, there are a lot of reasons for that. It's actually a pretty interesting question. Some guys like the dexterity they have without gloves. So, for instance, Fabian Cancellara, you watch him in a time trial, he'll virtually always have bare hands. He feels he has better control of the bike, he can rail the corners better, shift more crisply, and so on. Other guys will wear the gloves because of the padding, because of the crash protection, and oh, by the way, it typically has the sponsor name on it as well, so it's just another way to do the favor that your sponsor wants. The sponsors put in millions of dollars into these teams, and that's why these guys are plastered everywhere with Lotto Belisol or Garmin Sharp or Caja Rural. There's a lot of money behind these teams.
Johnny Hogerland there in the front with some of the Lamprey riders. What is his motivation today? He's coming in 350 down. He's not a guy that's going to challenge for the GC, and now it looks like his time of pulling up at the front is done, because he's almost looks like he's reaching and pressing down on his talkback, and perhaps either getting some instruction or telling his director, you know, I'm done.
Well, I think probably what's happening with Hogerland is he's headed back to the team car now to go pick up more bottles or just chat with the director. Actually, in the final 50K, you're not allowed to take anything from the car, so maybe that was more just a discussion. And their man for the general classification is probably Liwa Westra, but you know, you would say that coming in, but he's 409 down, right? And so he had a rough day. So I think the team is really looking for opportunities for stages at this point. Wout Poels is their high man on the GC at 118 down. And if you ever wonder how to stretch the quadricep while you're racing, take a good look at that right there. Basically stick that foot up on the saddle, and Angel Vicioso giving us a nice display. You don't typically do that in the finale when everybody's pushing and shoving, but you see guys do that a little bit before that final climb, back of the field.
Probably you don't want to do it either going 20 miles an hour with 100 other riders right around you. We'll take one final break here, and the finish of today's stage 2 coming up. $5K now to the climb up the Monte de Grova. And will there be quite a bit of, let's say, anxiety or pressure to get near the front at the start of the climb? Or is that really only in the case of a shorter climb and a more of a kind of a climbing sprint finish? In other words, will there be much of a race to get to the front in the peloton as they start up their climb?
I think you could say anxiety would be understating what guys are going through right now in the peloton. This is the first summit finish of 11 summit finishes. So look at how fast the peloton is going right now. They're absolutely ripping. This is probably almost 40 miles an hour. And they know that setting up for this climb sets the tone for their general classification rider for the rest of the race. This is a huge setup right now, and it is going to be absolutely blistering and a lot of fighting getting to that base.
Cannondale in green doing a hard pull at the front moments ago for Basso. The gap now between the peloton and our breakaway of 3 is under 4 minutes. And with such a long climb, there could be quite a bit of suffering for that front 3. And this also as well, we need to get back to this point. This is going to be really illuminating to see which of our GC contenders has got their climbing legs set to go.
Yeah, illuminating is a great way to describe it, because there's basically going to be a giant spotlight as things thin out and separate on that climb. I have to think Joaquin Rodriguez is going to come out with both pistols loaded and just be taking the big shots at everybody, because he loves the uphill finishes. But Valverde is great at them, and then of course Sergio Henao, the Sky Rider, the Colombian. He's got something he wants to prove. And Nibali, all he has to do is mark those guys. So he can be conservative. He can follow the wheels and then just finish with them and hold the jersey for his team.
21 stages in this year's Vuelta, 13 of them mountain stages, 11, over half, have mountaintop finishes. Amazing.
3 minutes now, the gap. So the breakaway is absolutely doomed. Argo Shimano now come to the front.
The gap exactly 3 minutes. When we come back from this break, we will stay through the finish of stage 2.
Now it's Katusha there and Lotto Belisol.
Excuse me, Todd. I was just going to say that we will stay with you commercial free through the finish of stage number 2. And that climb starts at about 11.1 thereabouts. So coming up shortly.
Yeah, really shortly. Now remember, the breakaway has a little over a minute on these guys, but everybody's going to be on that climb real soon. And it starts out hard, so it really starts to stretch the legs very early. 8.3% very early on in the climb.
Well, these three have done a fantastic job today. I think it's no longer a question of if they will get caught, but when.
Yeah, we just saw those cars coming out of the gap. So here they are. They're on the base of the climb, over 8% where they are, where the peloton is flat and very fast.
A couple tight turns and they will start climbing as well. 2,000 feet, 6.8 miles. Now you've got Omega Pharma at the front of the peloton. We have seen Zdeněk Štýbar in the Eneco Tour for Omega Pharma, who is an excellent finisher when the stages end uphill.
Yeah, do not discount Zdeněk Štýbar after what we saw the Czech Republic rider do at the Eneco Tour, which ended just last weekend. He was really on fire. He was the revelation of that race.
And now the climb in earnest. Rasmussen staying down, but Aramendia and Henderson out of the saddle, and so you've got a Lotto rider in Henderson. in the breakaway. Surprising to see Lotto trying to push the pace at the front of the peloton?
No, because they're just at that point, they're fighting for position. They know Henderson's not going to do well, and in fact, he's already been popped. So it's really about being in position. You don't want to be 50 guys back here in the melee.
So Movistar, Katusha, and FDJ at the front, and in a matter of moments, Henderson will get caught. So now the breakaway of 3 has been dropped to 2. It is Armendia and Rasmussen.
Pablo Lastres, the man on the front right now for the Movistar team. A very loyal domestique. Occasionally he gets a shot and pulls off a big win himself, but usually this is what he does. He sits on the front, he rides until he can't pedal anymore, and then Alejandro Valverde or one of his other team leaders takes over.
Valverde with 29 seconds to make up on Nibali. Doesn't obviously need to get much of it today. Many of these riders have pointed to the penultimate stage, stage 20, that nasty climb.
Yeah, the Angliru is brutal. There's Henderson on the right side of your screen, so he has been picked up from the breakaway, and he'll just put it in the easy gear here, I'm assuming, and ride it in.
And now you've got 2 Movistar riders up at the front, but many of those riders thought that the Vuelta will not be decided until that stage 20, and that obviously yet to be seen with 11 mountaintop finishes. Clearly, you have to have your climbing legs at the Vuelta to do well.
And so, Peter, do you ever wonder kind of if their muscle group use changes on a climb to a flat road, or do you not worry about things like that?
I do not worry about things like that, but I will tee you up and say, yes, I wonder all the time. Explain it to me,
Well,
please.
you know, here's the deal. When you start climbing, you actually end up probably engaging your hamstrings just a little bit more and your glutes a little bit more. The faster your cadence, the less you're going to be able to engage your hamstrings, because it's hard to pull up. It's an unnatural feeling. But the cadence typically comes down just a little bit on the climb, so you get a little bit more hamstring and glute in there and take a little bit of the pressure off of the quads. But overall, you're always going to bias the quads as a bike racer.
10K to go, and our 2 breakaway riders now with about a 10-second gap. Let me build on that point. When you then get out of the saddle, what's the difference there in terms of the cadence going uphill and what muscle groups you're using?
So typically when a guy gets out of the saddle, notice how fast Rasmussen is pedaling, and he jumped out of the saddle there just for a second. It's hard to be out of the saddle with a really high cadence. So typically before you get out of the saddle, you go into 1 gear harder. This is about 10% right here, and the field is right on him.
So it's been a fantastic day off the front for Armendia and Rasmussen, and they are now caught with just under 10K to go, and as Movistar just swiftly rides on by, you can see one of the lead rider there kind of give a look over and perhaps a little nod to, hey, good effort, guys. Oh, there's a crash at the back between Euskaltel and AG2R, and some words are exchanged, and boy, you've just got to be paying attention, and I don't think the Euskaltel rider was.
Yeah, there are definitely some words exchanged back there, and those guys really were already out of the stage, but still, it's, you know, your tempers flare in these moments. You're in pain, and then a guy takes you out. This is Fabian Cancellara, so he was wearing that green jersey as the points leader for leading his team across first in the 2nd place yesterday. Caja Rural continuing to put the pressure on. Love the style of these guys.
Cannot see the number for this rider yet, but they had Armendia in the front all day long, and now one of his teammates takes a pop off of the front. You talked about it, about being animated. You're a wild card. You want to get into this race and make sure that that jersey is right here in the front of the camera as much as it can be.
Yeah, Ames Chiruka actually used to ride for the Euskaltel squad, and he's come over to the Caja Rural squad. Maybe he's got a little bone to pick, and he says, hey, I used to be on a World Tour team. Now I'm on a Pro Continental team. Let me show you what I have, fellas.
138 down coming into today.
Yeah, this guy always on the attack, Chiruka. 9K to go.
And he is looking back, Todd. He is really putting in a big push at this point to get a separation. And And if the Motocam can get in front, we'll just kind of see how much of a success he has had. So he's got a few seconds on the peloton.
Indeed, and this is one of those spots where it levels out just a bit. It's at about 5% here. It's going to pitch up to 10%, not soon ahead of him. And that's when we'll really be able to see how good his legs are.
Now the peloton strung out.
And if you're back, let's say you're back 20 guys right now, you may never actually be able to get to the front again because it's going so fast and so hard. And if you move up, you have to get out in the wind. And just to move up, then you blow yourself up and you can't follow the move. So that's why the guys have to fight for the position at the bottom.
And how patient do these riders have to be at this point? Those working for Valverde, Rodriguez, and Vincenzo Nibali.
They got to be patient, but they also have to be in communication. And Nibali right now sitting in the 3rd spot. He's the 2nd light blue rider for the Astana team. And he was just getting some water in the system.
A couple of Vacansoleil riders up as well. FDJ, still Movistar at the front. There were 2 riders there moments ago. Now just 1. Pushing the pace, trying to mark any moves, working for Valverde.
And it looked to me like Jakob Fuglsang was up there with Nibali as well.
Well, if you find yourself at the back there and you're just about to give up, or you do, what goes through your mind? I mean, when do you reach that point where you say, I'm done?
You want to look for the views like we just had. That's what goes through your mind. You got to think of pleasant things. And it is Fuglsang there on the left side of your screen. Working for Nibali. We don't see the red jersey right now of Yanni Brajkovic.
Fuglsang 7th at this year's Tour de France. 4th at the Dauphiné.
Yeah, he's the real deal. There's no doubt. I mean, that team is loaded. If you look at the talent they have in there, they've got good talent for the flat roads to protect Vincenzo, and they got good talent to help him out in the mountains as well. And you can see the suffering going on right there. That was Daniele Ratto, I believe, for the Cannondale squad, and just going back like a rock.
I believe that was 76, so Maciej Paterski.
Oh, it was Paterski, okay.
Who did a nice job at stage 7 of the Eneco Tour. He was in that 3-man breakaway.
Indeed.
And had a nice finish there last Saturday.
Yeah, you'll see Vikinen there in the white jersey for FDJ, just going out the back. The white with a blue plus as the Finnish National Road Champion. He'll be saying goodbye to the peloton right about now.
So a couple Cannondale riders get dropped off the back on this severe finish to stage number 2. What a creative and challenging start to this year's Vuelta. So many climbing stages, and they couldn't wait. They had to get to it right away.
Yeah, what about Jose Arada on the front right now for Movistar? He's been up there for a long time, just putting in a really nice, steady, and very hard tempo. Here's Brajkovic, the leader from yesterday.
So I think it's fairly obvious what's in the cards for him. He will not wear that red jersey tomorrow. And he said as much, that he's out there to work for Vincenzo. So 7.5K to go to the finish.
And hey, now out of this group, and this is not a small group. We're not talking 10 guys. We're looking at like 50 guys right now that have ridden away from Sergio Henao.
Underneath the 4K banner. So Sky now has got one of their GC contenders who has already found himself in a world of hurt. 22 seconds down on the day. But if he does not pick it up, he's going to lose a lot more on stage 2 as Movistar.
26 miles an hour right there. 26 miles an hour with 5 Movistar men on the front.
Back to Brajkovic. At the back. Now might even be behind him.
And Brajkovic is still struggling, but look at Sylvester Schmid. One on top of the Mont Ventoux years ago in the Dauphiné. A few years back, the only Polish rider ever to do that. And heck, there aren't very many guys who can claim winning on the Ventoux.
Well, there are many ways to get to the top of this mountain. There's one, and we're going to follow these guys. Muscatel, boy, look at that. That's not a good sight.
Yeah, they brought 3 men back to help Sammy Sanchez, and they just hope that he'll ride into this after today.
Well, you got 4 Movistar riders up at the front, and it looks to me that Chris Horner is on his own.
Yeah, Chris Horner's sort of dangling in there. Right behind, he's off to the left shoulder, to our right, of the green jersey of Basso. He's out in a little bit of wind. Does not have a lot of help right now, unfortunately.
Surprised with 3K to go that you still have this many riders up front?
You know, I am a little bit surprised. I thought that the earlier part of the climb might blow it up, but they came into it, remember, pretty darn fresh. And David Arroyo, let's see if he is still in the lead group. He is. He's hanging on the back. And that's Popovic there next to him. One of the men who does a lot of work in the Radio Shack team. It's going to be very hard for anybody to truly break up this group because there's so many guys here and we haven't seen any testing attacks yet, and it takes a bunch of attacks to really shake it up, and they're getting close to the finish with this many guys. Look at the 2 NetApp men up there in the front, as well as Leopold Koenig, number 151. He can be very good on uphill finishes, and he was right there with a teammate.
NetApp with a nice performance yesterday in the team time trial. They went off first, held the lead for a while. So those 2 wildcard teams, the NetApp and Caja Rural, have done a nice job today as well of making sure that their presence is known. But I'm so impressed with Valverde, but not impressed with now 39 seconds back. And you saw one of the teammates for Valverde.
That was Schmid, yeah. Sylvester Schmid, who just did that massive turn on the front. He'll lose 10 minutes now in the final 2 kilometers. You just look at the results tonight.
So now Valverde with 2 teammates left, with 2K to go to the finish. 35, 37 kilometers an hour.
That's amazing. I mean, they're going uphill at speeds in excess of 20 miles an hour right now. Wicked.
So you've got the Movistar riders, Astana, NetApp, and Chris Horner with 2K to go, along with Roman Kreuziger. Or Saxo Tinkoff has moved back just a bit. But you are right, Todd. We have yet to see anybody make an attack.
Well, at this speed, it's almost committing suicide to attack because the guys are getting so much draft back in this group. And so attacking now probably means you just shoot yourself in the foot, and everybody's just trying to stay onto this infernal tempo being set by Movistar.
Is it too steep at the finish to have a uphill sprint finish, or is that what we're looking at?
We might be looking at a pretty big group that just sort of comes unglued literally in the final kilometer or the final 500 meters. We might get some small little gaps. And now Koenig looks like he's striking out for NetApp, so he's going for it. He's going to go long.
Leo Koenig for NetApp with 1.4K to go. Takes off, looks back, sees if anybody's going to mark him. You've got the 2 Movistar riders now, and Nibali for Astana right behind her.
Oh, that takes some nerve, let me tell you. The pace these guys are going up the mountain to try and strike out on your own. Absolutely massive confidence.
Just over a kilometer to go to the finish. The Czech rider won a stage of the Tour of California earlier this year. This would be a huge victory for not only him, but his team as well.
Oh, this is exactly how he won in California. He was with all the leaders on the big climb on Diablo, and he said, all right, fellas, you can look at each other. I'm going up the road for the stage.
Boy, what a fantastic turn of events for the opening weekend for Team NetApp, the German Pro Continental team. This is their debut at the Vuelta. They have yet to win a Grand Tour stage. Here is Rodriguez now.
Yeah, Rodriguez, we knew he was going to be going for it.
Daniel Moreno for Katusha. So is that not Rodriguez?
I think it was Rodriguez from what I could see there, but we'll get another look at his face momentarily.
Yeah, Rodriguez is number 121. Moreno's 127.
That's
I would
Rodriguez.
be surprised if it's Moreno. It's got to be Rodriguez. With under a kilometer to go to the finish here, the first uphill finish of 11 at this year's Vuelta. So a couple riders have gotten away from this big group. You've got 4 riders now. So you've got Koenig up in front, and then you've got Rodriguez, Saxo Tinkoff, and an AG2 rider. Is that Betancourt?
I actually may be saying that is Moreno. I thought it was Rodriguez, but I got a better look at his face there. It is, in fact, Moreno. My eyes failed me, and Nicholas Roche is the man for Saxo Bank up there.
And Pozzovivo, Domenico Pozzovivo for AG2R.
And Pozzovivo, his team said coming into the race, he's here for the GC, and now he goes on the attack.
Pozzovivo off the left side of the road, and so it is Koenig who matches him, and it is the Katusha rider who keeps looking back saying, where are you, Rodriguez? And now Pozzovivo continues out of the saddle.
And Pozzovivo has a degree in economics, and he's a classical pianist, but here comes Nicholas Roche. Roche really needs a Grand Tour stage victory.
Roche on the left side of the road, and he has timed it perfectly now as they approach the finish line here of stage 2. Nicholas Roche, 4 hours and 36 minutes in the saddle. Katusha now in second.
And here comes Moreno. Can Moreno do it? I don't think so. It looks like Roche is going to get this.
Nicholas Roche, a huge win for him if he can hang on. There's a bit of a downhill slope, and he will win stage 2 of the Vuelta. Wow, what a surprise.
They have fantastic riding by the Irishman, as all sorts of upsets there at the end. And now we see it looks like it is indeed Valverde leading everybody else across. So we'll see what happens here in the general classification.
Well, Nicholas Roche was 32 seconds down after yesterday's stage 1. He'll get a few time bonuses. But it seems like the big loser on the day was Anau for Sky. And the winner is Saxo Tinkoff. And a fantastic win for Nicholas Roche as he takes the uphill finish here on stage 2. We'll take a pause and continue to wrap things up after this. The successful finish of stage 2 for Nicholas Roche, the 29-year-old Irishman. 12th here last year, 7th overall in 2010, picks up his first Grand Tour stage win.
A beautiful job by him. Look at the gap he had over Moreno into the final couple hundred meters. And at this point, it looks so easy from above, but I can tell you, the body is absolutely on fire, but propelled by that victory that's looming just in front of you.
Pozzovivo for AG2R finishes 3rd on the day, and Leo Koenig for Team NetApp finishes 4th. So for 2 straight days, Team NetApp has done a nice job, and for a pro-continental team, they have certainly made their presence known. So here are the results on the day. Moreno 2 seconds back, Pozzovivo 6 seconds, and then it is Leopold and Alejandro Valverde. So the best finish for one of our GC contenders. His team did a fantastic job on the climb.
And it is a gorgeous day along the Galician coast in northwestern Spain. Blue water and sunny skies for the 3rd day of the season's 3rd Grand Tour. And the overall standings after a very busy first weekend, Vincenzo Nibali, the Giro champion, is the leader by 8 seconds over Nicholas Roche, with American Chris Horner in 3rd, just 10 seconds off the pace. Stage 3 on tap for today in northwestern Spain, twisting and turning, flat most of the way, but not at the finish.
And all those twists and turns, as you mentioned, up against and around the beautiful Galician coast, so a lot of wind. And the climb at the finish, it's not a big one. It shouldn't see major general classification changes, Steve, but it just is another nervous finale for the guys, and the guys that are good at getting up about a 2.5-mile climb will be going for a stage win.
And we are now live with a 5-man breakaway that has has so far shaped this first Monday at the Vuelta a España. No riders who are long-term threats on the general classification. You see the names right here. Luca Dodi, Vicente Reines, Fabrizio Ferrari, Cyril Bessi, and Pablo Urrasun are the 5 riders, 2 of which are Spaniards in the break today. This is the peloton that is sitting in behind them. No real chase at the moment. The largest the gap has gone up to is just over 5 minutes, so everything under control, settled for the day at this point, and everybody just rolling along after a couple of pretty active days with the team time trial on stage 1 and the climbing that unfolded on stage number 2 yesterday.
And Steve, I don't know if you just noticed, but the flag they just came by, the Spanish flag, the wind is definitely howling coming off of the coastline, so it makes for stressful days for the guys in the peloton. Even though there's not a dangerous breakaway, there's always that potential for something to happen in a crosswind, in a split or a crash.
So much of this stage is along the gorgeous coast in northwestern Spain, and the prevailing wind for most of today's route will be a headwind. Now, when they come down to the end in the final 4Ks, which go uphill, that would be a tailwind. So it opens up a lot of different possibilities for the way the stage could go.
Indeed, tailwind climbs are the hardest to follow the guys that are explosive because you don't get any draft. And so those tailwind climbs do make a difference. But once again, look at the wind.
All right, well, let's take a look at what's at stake here in the Vuelta on this Monday. Will Vincenzo Nibali defend that red jersey all the way to Madrid in 3 weeks? Can Nicolas Roche continue to hold the climbing and points jerseys? And what about Sammy Sanchez and Sergio Henao? There is so much that has happened in these first couple of days. And let's begin with Nibali and the possibility of him holding that red jersey. We rarely see a leader at a Grand Tour go almost wire to wire, especially one with this much climbing that is still to come.
Yeah, a lot of tests for Nibali, but they passed the test with flying colors so far on Team Astana, winning the team time trial, and they weren't even considered one of the favorites going into that first stage in the TTT, 17 miles, 27 kilometers. All the team directors I spoke with were talking about Radio Shack and Omega Pharma and other teams, so they surprised there. It showed their depth, and then they continued to do very well on the first summit finish yesterday. So Nibali's got a powerful team, and if there's anybody in the race who could do it, it would be him. But it's a big ask. There are a lot of summit finishes to come, 10 more, including today.
The margin to the breakaway has come down from its largest point of over 5 minutes, just over 2 minutes ahead of this peloton right now. Still a long way out, almost 76 kilometers to the finish. And what about Henao and Iran, especially Sergio Henao? Forgetting to eat on the second day of a Grand Tour might catch some people by surprise.
Yeah, well, it caught him by surprise, there's no doubt. So here's how that works. You're in the bike race. It's the first time you're the leader of your team, a powerhouse team, Team Sky, in a Grand Tour. And so you have all the nerves to go with everything else in the racing. And even the best pros in the world have done that. Alberto Contador has lost stage races that way. It just happens sometimes. But Henao is the less experienced of the 2 Colombians on that team. Rigoberto Urán, his friend, his compatriot, his roommate, is really trying to teach Henao more, and being a leader of this Grand Tour is part of that teaching process.
Now, this is Fabian Cancellara working his way back up through the cars, it looks like here. Cancellara for the Radio Shack Leopard team, who is building towards the World Championship time trial in just about a month in Florence. So into the second half of his season and using the Vuelta as preparation for that TT at the Worlds.
Oh, look at that. He's moving right up through there on this little congested part of the course where all the cars slow down. He just kind of rolls on through. I tell you, working that caravan like a professional, like Cancellara does, you can save a lot of energy. If you panic back in that caravan, then you use a lot of energy trying to get up to the field too fast. But if you just take your time, he's there chatting with the BMC director, no big deal, you know, take a little push here, draft a little there, and get up into the field.
Cancellara skipping the Tour de France this year because time trialing was not all that important. And now trying to make it back to this peloton with just under 75K to go on stage number 3.
just chilling at the back there after a pretty rough day yesterday. We'll see if he can find the legs that he was missing yesterday. But Steve, to your point, the UCI points, in addition to the fact that a guy is moving to another team, and he takes the majority of those points with him, and the points are part of how the teams are granted the World Tour license to race in all the biggest races. So there are all sorts of conflicting motivations out there, and you can get some weird results from that.
There should just be a rule that you cannot announce a new team until the end of a season. I know that riders will know inside the peloton and that the information won't be kept totally under wraps, but there should just be some system by which you can't announce things until the end of the year, because you don't see it in any other sport. You wouldn't see Tom Brady saying, hey, I'm going to the New York Giants midway through an NFL season.
No, they should have a rule that you can't take your feet out of your shoes either during the race.
But hey, if Steph Clement from the Belkin team has the dexterity to do it and still ride along, more power to him.
Yep, just so long as that orthotic doesn't fall out on the road, right?
And look how much the gap has gone back up. They've let them stretch it out to an additional minute from its lowest point, with 63 kilometers now left to ride.
Well, the games the peloton can play with the breakaway. It's a fine line between going too hard and not going hard enough. And sometimes you see them make the error at the end, and that breakaway does stay away, and the guys get the big payoff for being out there all day. But it's pretty rare.
Just toying with the breakaway at this point. And as you mentioned, we saw the BMC rider come up and talk to Omega Pharma Quickstep and telling him to ease back, slow it down. And you never know who exactly has the authority to control the speed and the pace of the peloton. So you always want to get everybody on the same page. You just hope that everybody has the same goals, the same objectives, because, we have a crash. Sky, Caja Rural, FDJ, and Garmin among the teams involved back here.
And a seemingly very innocuous part of the race, and can make a big change in an instant.
A couple of Sky riders, it looks like. Oh, that's Sergio A. now, number 191. His troubles just continue.
Luke Rowe was there with him. I think there may have actually been a third Sky man down as well. Salvatore Puccio, yep, as well. And he's getting a wheel now.
Antonio Piedra of the Caja Rural team, number 67, is there. But boy, Sergio A. now, a couple of days in a row after forgetting to eat yesterday, had a puncture earlier in this stage, and now a crash. And it's right at the back of the field.
Sergio A. now right on the left side of your screen in the black colors of Sky, just starting to stand up. But look at all the teammates he has around him. Doesn't look like his teammates crashed, but he had 3 teammates there to help him out, get him going again. And the American waited for the wheel. The
American Caleb Fairley is there for the Garmin Sharp team. Doesn't look like he crashed. He was just caught behind it.
But Sergio A. now, number 191 there, just getting a push off. Has not been a good first couple of days for him.
Boy, sometimes you just get a sign that it's not going to be your race. And for Sergio A. now, that's 3 things in the first 3 days that have been trouble for him, as the gap is up to 2:17 now.
And once again, you can look down at the back end of the field, all this single file line. Those are the guys coming back up that got stuck in the bottleneck of that crash. There are going to be guys coming up for a while, though. Fortunately for them, the chase is not really on at this point, so they should all make it back up without too much trouble, Steve. But it is wasted energy, and you also have to live with those bumps and bruises over the next almost 3 weeks. And, you know, you're already taxing your body a lot. Now you ask it, hey, I got to heal these cuts as well.
That's one of the things that's really remarkable about these Grand Tours. When things happen so early, mentally, you have to get yourself in the headspace that, all right, I've got 3 weeks. I've got to suck it up, because this could really be demoralizing if I don't have the right frame of mind. I think back to Tony Martin and his crash at the beginning of the Tour de France this year. I mean, that guy was as battered and bruised as you could possibly be. You were thinking he was going to pull out of the race. He had a concussion, but yet he persevered throughout the whole race and somehow had the mental capacity to dig deep and stay in it.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, and that's one of the big attributes of a professional cyclist, is this sort of uncanny ability to always persevere, never give up, never say no. And actually racing the Peace Race, a couple-week long race way back in the 80s, Sergio Henao making his way back up here to the back of the field. But I had a teammate who crashed 3 times in one stage race, and I've had teammates who've crashed on the first day and the last day in the same spot. I mean, it just happens a lot.
Sergio Henao back at the team car here. That is him. Henao, number 191. Now look for a moment like he might get some kind of service, but now he's going to ride up with his teammates. Now coming in as the team leader for this Sky squad, coming off its 2nd consecutive Tour de France win. Always a lot of pressure with one of the top teams in the sport, and now really on the back foot.
Yeah, tough day for him. It's Edvald Boassenhagen there with his teammate Xavi Zondio, and then Henao should just get pulled up by his teammates.
So we're down under 60 kilometers left to go, and the gap going back up to the breakaway. Almost 2.5 minutes ahead on the road.
They're definitely ramping up the peloton speed a lot right now as they're coming through this small town. Of course, you always have the added chaos of the crowds and all the cars on the side of the road, as well as the occasional road furniture just to make it especially unfun in the peloton.
Now, fortunately for the riders, less road furniture in Spain than in most countries. A lot of wide avenues such as this one. So nothing terribly difficult to deal with on the course itself.
Yeah, speed bump is nothing like a traffic island, that's for sure.
Under 50 kilometers left to go, and under 2 minutes now from this peloton to the breakaway. Now mostly flat. That red vertical line shows you where the riders are at this point, and it'll remain flat until we get to the finish, when this race will be decided in an uphill through the final 4 kilometers. And big crowds in all the towns. Still holiday season in Spain. So even on a Monday, some good crowds turning out for the Vuelta.
Steve, really nice view here of how that front group is rotating as they were moving up on the right side and back on the left side. And so each guy just spends a very small amount of time in the wind. And speaking of traffic furniture,
think of the nerves and general anxiety that accompanies the riders in the first few days of any Grand Tour. If you can alleviate any of that through better roads, less obstacles, fewer traffic furniture components to deal with, it all makes a difference in the mental approach as riders become engaged in a 3-week race.
Well, and Steve, part of that is just the personality of the rider. So some guys are just pretty relaxed and they're pretty chilled, and so they don't have all this anxiety and nervous energy that they're wasting. And then other guys seem to really get wound up, and it's hard for them to sleep. I mean, I've had teammates who couldn't sleep, and they would have to black out their rooms and have, you know, noisemaker, you know, these little white noisemakers and stuff, because they would just get so wound up, especially if they're in the lead.
You get upset when you have a teammate who can't sleep and that keeps you up?
Well,
because who gets to decide if you get to turn on the TV, watch a movie? Who makes that call?
No, you can't do that. That's not okay. And okay, so that does bring up a good point, though. Why would all these riders not have their own rooms? You know, then you would think you would get better sleep, right? One guy's idiosyncrasies don't keep the other guy awake. It almost never works that way. Yeah, if you're Alberto Contador or Lance Armstrong or Greg LeMond or Bernardino, you might have your own room. But the other guys all have a roommate. So you find somebody you're compatible with. The management of the team knows that. And if you got a tough teammate, they rotate him around.
So they should just be right in front of the peloton at this point. And how about this? Movistar has it lined up at the front with Astana trailing behind.
Quite a bit like they were yesterday on the final climb. This is Lastras on the front. What a great domestique he is. And I have to say, a guy like Pablo Lastras, he earns every bit of his salary. He rarely gets the glory, but he is in the wind a lot for his team leaders.
And his leader is Alejandro Valverde, who is right now fourth wheel in a white jersey. Valverde, former winner of the Vuelta a España, like Rodriguez of Katusha, who we were talking